Hello, what's going on, YouTube fam? This is your boy J Money here, and I'm bringing you guys part 3 of how to prepare for Nats if you're playing X or Y deck, and that is featuring Goukis. Now, with this being said, I do want to go ahead and mention that I am at work and there's a lot of truckers around. For those of you who are wondering what all the noise is, and so if a trucker ends up coming by, I gotta go ahead and assist them. So go easy on me if I end up taking a like 45-second intermission. So I was going to also feature Brendan Beckman in this video because he has played the deck and he's much more experienced with the deck than I am. However, he ended up leaving before the tournament even ended, so I couldn't really get a hold of that video footage for you guys. But Nats is less than a week away and I still have other decks I need to cover. So as they say, the show must go on. So with this being said, I want to go ahead and shout out Alberto Arana for once again providing me with such amazing World Challenge stuff. This being this awesome World Challenge triple deck box. I believe this features the card World Legacy Sorrow. Now, this triple deck box is pretty freaking fantastic because if you look at it, you got these awesome little straps, and it's here to pull the decks out much more easily because you can't really put your fingers inside, and each slot holds about 85 cards apiece, so that's really cool. So thanks once again, Arana, or Alberto Arana. You are awesome. So with that being said, we're going to do what we always do, and that is, what is the win condition of this deck? So we're gonna just go ahead and just lay it out for you. Extra linking, that is what this deck excels at. It is really good at chain blocking and all the good stuff, so you can mask all your important stuff from things like Ash Blossom, Ogre if you got Firewall on the field, and all that. Link Karibo being on the field, even though it's got 300 attack, isn't a problem because Nightmare Phoenix prohibits co-link monsters from dying by battle. Goblin prohibits targeting of co-link monsters, and this prohibits the destruction of co-link monsters. So you got a nice deadly combination here, combined with the fact that you have a negate off Tri-Gate Wizard for anything that would threaten these to potentially break you up. Not only that, but the fact that there is an Ibly on the field means that, well, your opponent isn't special summoning unless they got link monsters, which they are just extra linked out of the game, so that's not really happening now, is it? So we're gonna go ahead and start off with the meat and the potatoes, and that is just, you know, just the core, just so I can just go ahead and lay it out for you guys. Now, I could be 1 to 2 cards off in terms of the core, so with that being said, please bear with me, guys. Okay, let's see. There is a trucker that just pulled up, so I gotta go and direct him real quick. Alright, we're back, guys. So anyway, I don't have jump forwards, but that's a given. Those are very standard. You should definitely play those. I would honestly recommend 2 play sets of cards that can special summon warriors, whether it be Jump Forward, Invoked Raijin, so you would have to play Instant Fusions, or Marauding Captains. Marauding Captains is also something that you may want to consider if you want to free up some extra deck space. But the fact of the matter is, Invoked Raijin can also bait negates out without using your normal summons, so that is also something you want to consider. More Goukis players are playing Twin Twisters because Sky Strikers and Tricksters and all their variants alike are very popular, and they're playing lots of back row. And you don't want to fall victim to said back row. You don't want to fall victim to impermanences. You want to get the reincarnations out of the way early. You don't want to walk into a Joel combo because you'll lose. You know, You don't want to smack into a Widowmaker. There's a lot of things you don't want to run into. And so, yeah, Twin Twisters being mained is a pretty good idea. So this being said, and also you're going to main about 6 different hand traps. I would honestly recommend Droll and Lockbird for starters because that is the worst card against your deck because the whole deck searches itself. The reason why I would play Droll is because it uses your opponent's Call by the Grave against them if they have their own Droll. So if I drop Droll and they Call by the Grave that card, Call by the Grave lasts for 2 turns. So that means that when it's time for me to go off, I am 100% guaranteed not to get met by Droll and Lockbird. Like, you don't even have to worry about the combo anymore at that point. Because, you know, they can reincarnation you, but they can't Droll you because the effects are negated. So, and also the same thing with Ash Blossom. If you have a Call by the Grave to answer Droll, then I would drop Ash just to get a Call by the Grave out of the way. So my Isolde and all that doesn't get hit by Ash Blossom. So, with that being said, all that stuff's out the way. Now we're going to talk the real stuff, because this is a very popular deck, and all of the plays it can create and the boards it can make are very powerful. The deck has a huge target on its back, so you have a lot of cards that are going to be sided and being played against you to stop your plays from going through. So with this being said, guys, your Goukis players, actually, this is for you. You play a very aggressive, fast deck. Like I do when I play World Chalice. I've been playing this card in the side deck for a month now, and it has been incredibly good. So, 3 Hatredates side this card. You will win the duel if you play this card, and you're going second. That is huge against anything Sky Striker and Trickstar related. You play this card, you win. Who cares if they have reincarnation? You flip it over, you're activating the reincarnation on your terms, not on your opponent's terms. You know, you don't have to worry about them ripping that rematch in your hand that you just searched. You don't have to worry about the Droll combo anymore. I mean, they can Droll you after reincarnation's been activated, but at that point, you just knocked out 2 birds with 1 stone. You may not be able to OTK at that point, but if they don't Droll you, and they wait for you to search, well, for starters, you have to have Call by the Grave. You gotta have Call by the Grave for the Droll. That does kind of suck, but anyway, bouncing Widowmakers, bouncing set impermanences, or set Call by the Graves because they went first is huge. Forcing a Scapegoat active is huge, because then you can deal with all the tokens and not have to worry about getting blown out in the end phase once again. So, you know, Hatred Needs is just incredibly good right now. Next, this is a tech card, but Forbidden Lance. Guys, Forbidden Chalice was the tech card of last format. It's not as good as it used to be because, again, Goukis, you can't target because Goblin. Against anything Sky Striker or Trickster related, we don't care to really chalice anything. Like what? We're gonna chalice a Licorice. We're gonna chalice a Shizuku or a Kagari when they already use their effects. Like, we can even set chalice, and it still won't be nearly as good as it was last format. Not only that, but even if you're playing it against a deck like Altergeist, the fact that Protocol prevents the effects of Altergeist from being negated, it just makes Chalice not good anymore. Chalice is not good except against rogue decks, so I'd reserve that for the side deck. But Lance, on the other hand, hey, Impermanence is a card, Widowmaker is a card, Call by the Grave is a card if you got multiple copies on field and grave and you gotta resolve something. Troichiel is a card. There's so many good spells like Protocol. You can literally play through a Protocol if you have this. In fact, I literally won Game 3 yesterday against the Goukis hero player, and he was the only non-trickster player I played all tournament. But he had Lose a Turn on the board. But because I had this in hand, I made Nightmare Unicorn and paid for cost, and I was able to resolve the Unicorn because I had the Lance to protect my Unicorn from Lose a Turn, so my Unicorn was able to remove the Lose a Turn, and I was able to play the game. So yes, cards like Forbidden Chalice are really good because you don't want to get blown out, even by impermanence. So even if you were going first, I would still play that card because impermanence sucks. So anyway, we're gonna move on to the next deck that a lot of Goukis players, surprisingly enough, aren't even talking about really. They're talking about Altergeist more than they're talking about this, and that is the mirror match. Guys, Goukis are like the second most popular deck right now, so the likelihood of running into a mirror match in the later rounds are very, very high. And so you want to be prepared for that. So we're going to start off with the first card being Borolo Dragon. Borolo Dragon is actually main deck by some Goukis players. Others should be citing this card because being able to remove the Nightmare Goblin without targeting it, just taking it off the field, is huge. Goblin is a huge problem if you can't break, because if you don't remove Goblin, you can't get to the other cards because so many cards target in this format, and it's a huge deal. A huge deal. So with that being said, Borolo can go ahead and remove the Goblin, so then you can use your Unicorns and your Cerberuses to out the rest of the board. But none of this even matters if you are extra linked. So this brings us to the second set of cards, and that's Kaijus. Kaijus are incredible against the mirror match because being able to sack off the Link Kuriboh and turn off the extra link and turn off the Tri-Gate Wizard is huge. It enables you to play the game at this point, and then you can proceed from there. It's very, very self-explanatory. I'm not going to really go too much into Kaijus because Kaijus are just auto-win for a lot of combo decks. Last card, personal tech choice of mine, but that is Ningirsu. Ningirsu is, well, it's incredibly strong because, like Borolo, it outs Nightmare Goblin without targeting, and it doesn't destroy. Why I like this option a lot more? Well, for one, not everybody can afford a Borolo Dragon, and outside of the price tag, Borolo requires at least 3 monsters to make, to summon this card. So, if this could take 2 ranked or Link 2s to use to go into, I'd be all for this card. But the fact that it takes at least 3 monsters means you're making a heavy investment. Not only that, but Borolo requires the battle phase to be able to out the Nightmare Goblin to break your opponent's board during the mirror match. Whereas this does not require you to go in the battle phase. Not only that, but Ningirsu is cheaper, and it is much more accessible and much more flexible, because if you're already mid-combo with Firewalls and Mermaids and all that stuff, you already got your Ibly and you got your extra normal summon, and you know, you summon more Link monsters, you can link a Mermaid and a Goblin into this and out Goblin and still have a bunch of board presence, and then you can make Unicorn from there and remove the Cerberus, make Cerberus and remove something else, and you're in a very, very good spot. And again, it's cheaper, and you don't need and it doesn't take as many monsters to make, and that is absolutely huge. So next, what we're going to talk about is, well, just generic cards, generic side cards, and all that good stuff against other matchups. First off, Altergeist. Altergeist can beat this deck pretty good, and that is because of one thing: Floodgates. Floodgates kill your deck. That is something you don't want to smack into. Hold on, guys, there's a trucker. Sorry, guys. Just to remind you guys, I am at work. There's a lot of truckers around. So if they end up showing up in my front doorstep, then I gotta address that. So anyway, Floodgates kill your deck. Now, with that being said, the obvious answer is Unending Nightmare. The best card against any Floodgate deck, because no matter how many Floodgates get flipped over, you can just keep on blowing that shit up consistently. If I could, I will pay 6,000 life points to make sure all Floodgates are gone, Because if it means I can play the game, then it's, you know, I'll win the duel, and it's so worth it. Next card, Sphere Mode, guys. I know the Goukis board is incredibly powerful, but Sphere Mode is a normal summon for starters, and I know the deck has little to no recovery because you go into most of your extra deck to make the board. That is assuming that you guys are even playing Exodius, which I know you're not playing Exodius. So nobody is thinking, everybody's just willing to take the L if your opponent has Sphere Mode. And it's like, oh, if they got it, then I'll lose game 3 and I'll lose the match. No, we were never trying to lose. We were never losing games just for no reason. No, we're going to do whatever it takes to win the game, and that means we need to protect ourselves from Sphere Mode. So once again, Master Restrict. I will never take this out as long as Sphere Mode is viable. How is this viable? Well, pure Sky Strikers can play Sphere Mode easily. Alter guys can play Sphere Mode easily. Even the hybrid at times can play Sphere Mode. So as long as there are top decks that can play Sphere Mode with ease, Master Restrict will never leave my side deck. Being able to make your Extra Link board, setting the Master Restrict, standby, activate Mask, and then just immediately extending that hand for good game is a great feeling. Not only that, but Master Restrict can also out Kaijus because no tribute. Anyway, with this being said, it could clog up your hand, opening hand. You can discard it with a Nightmare, so I would also recommend side decking a Griffin. Not just for Master Restrict, but if you're playing like a deck like Altergeist or something, you can set whatever you just discarded and be in a nice driver's seat, and it also does quite well against the mirror match. You know, in that respect. Hold on, guys. There's another trucker. I need to go and take his paperwork. Sorry once again, guys, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Especially if you gotta push some content out, because content waits for no one. So, with that being said, Griffin is pretty good depending on what spell traps you play in the side and you want to set them for later. And depending on the matchup, Griffin can actually do quite a bit of stunning. So, next up, a lot of people are not thinking about this card. Especially Goukis players. This is like the least thought of card that can be used to screw you over in the long run. But that is Cyber Dragon and Mega Fleet. This combination is incredibly effective against your deck. Because of the fact that Cyber Dragon is a level 5 monster, you can tribute over the Ibli to normal summon this card, break the Extra Link by making Mega Fleet. That is huge. Now, if they need their normal summon, they can switch Ibli to attack mode, crash into the Link Rebo, main phase 2 this card, still make Mega Fleet, because this is you cannot stop this card. Because once this hits the board, you can't stop them from breaking the Extra Link. So, if that is something you fear, I would recommend side decking one copy of Archon Christia, because it is just too good.
I'm back.
Alright, copy that. But Christia is just too good in any link-based deck, because you can special summon it at any time once you finish your combo and all that good stuff. So that would be something I would recommend. It's not too likely that you'll auto-lose to a Cyber Dragon Mega Fleet combo. You're more likely to get Sphere Moded. But just know that a Cyber Dragon Mega Fleet combo is very, very likely. Anyway, Droll Lockbird, one of the worst cards to run into game 1. It is super deadly, and it has very little counterplay. One thing you can do if you don't open Call by the Grave, is again, main deck your own play set of Droll and Lockbirds to potentially use your opponent's Call by the Grave against them, so you're not on the receiving end of this card, because this entire deck searches itself, and if you cannot search, you cannot get your win condition, and you cannot win the game. Now guys, for the last card, we have the worst card that you could ever come into contact with, and that is Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Winter Cherries being able to rip either is Zold or Firewall Dragon is absolutely devastating, and it can auto lose you a game because of the fact that Cherries is a card. Like Droll, this has very little counterplay. You can't drop Chaos Hunter against this card because your opponent's not special summoning anything unless they play Gamma or something. In that case, sure, Chaos Hunter away. But there's a couple ways that I would counterplay against Cherries. And that is, one, I would make my, this sounds really crazy, but this could be really, really key and really, really smart. What I would do is I would make my opponent go first and side these in. I would side Cherries and rip my opponent's Zold out of their extra deck before they get a chance to rip mine. So if you're playing against a pure Sky Striker, you know you're not going to get OTK'd. So I would just let them go first. They make a monster, Cherries their Zold, so then you can go off. So your own Zold doesn't get ripped out, but then that would leave Firewall Dragon, but I don't think they play both. They either play one or the other. They don't play both. This is one way to counterplay against Cherries, is just making your opponent go first and get the jump on them so they don't get the jump on you. But that is the other way to counterplay against this card. Just going second in general against Cherries is absolutely massive. So I play evenlies and all that good stuff so I can blow up my opponent. The reason why going second is so powerful is, especially with this deck, is they expect you to go first. If you lose game 1 or game 2, especially game 2, if you lose game 2 because they sided against you, they're not expecting you to take second. And so they're going to side their Cherries, they're going to side all that stuff. They're going to side more trap cards. This is where Hatrenates comes in, this is where this comes in. And so you side for going second, and you make your opponent go first, you're in a much, much better driver's seat, and you're not. And the fact that you made your opponent go first, your opponent's likely going to end on 2 monsters, so you can actually make a Zold without having to worry about this card being dropped on you. So making your opponent go first is very, very advantageous, especially since you're playing a deck that wants to go first, but you're the smart player and decide to side for going second and make some of your opponent's side cards pretty useless, make them dead cards. You know, siding these, siding Hatrenades, all that good stuff. Let's say I decide to side these, just side 6 cards. Just side out some of the hand traps except Droll, obviously, because you still want to, you know, stop them from going off, or stop their opponent's Droll from going off if they have Call by the Grave. So that is something that you could really do to get the jump on your opponent, because they're just going to assume that you're going to go first if you lose. But if you throw them off guard and say you can go first, if they don't play a monster, then that means they have Cherries. So you know what you need to do at that point. But if they do play a couple monsters, then that lets you know that, hey, once I summon Jump Forward and a Goukis monster, I can make a Zold without having to worry about Cherries. I would have to worry about Firewall getting ripped, but at that point, I'm in the driver's seat, especially if I open like an evenly or something. So that is just a tip from me. So let me know what you guys think about this discussion that I just had. I think I did fairly good, even though I don't really have experience against the deck. I just know what kills the deck. So I really want feedback on this one. I will end up doing some pure Sky Strikers next. So thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money. And I am signing out.